2. Revolution. Memo, top secret. Suitable as the subject seems in many ways, I still have grave reservations. He is deluded and unstable and ever prone to paranoia. The prospect of complete breakdown cannot be discounted. You urge that his enormous mental energy makes him particularly suitable for the project, yet this energy is in itself a matter of some concern, since its source continues to elude us. Nor is he easy to control, as witness the proposed attempt at a coup. However, my recommendation is that we allow it to proceed. When it fails, as it almost certainly will, the subject will be defeated and vulnerable, and ripe for the process. In addition, the attempt at a coup will provide valuable data as to the subject's behaviour under stress. For this reason, it is imperative that you keep the subject under close observation at all times. The TARDIS had materialised in an alleyway, just off a long, narrow street lined with tall old houses. From the end of the alley came the rumble of excited voices. On the street corner, a crowd was gathering around a man in a shabby raincoat. He stood on a wooden box, surrounded by a bodyguard of armed men. Beside him was an immensely tall and dignified old man in a brown hunting jacket. Behind them both stood a young man in uniform, staggering under the weight of a huge swastika banner. The man on the box was making a speech, and the Doctor and Ace edged closer to listen. The speaker was Adolf Hitler, a younger version of the famous face, but even then with lank black hair falling over his forehead and that same scrubby moustache. It was a wild, rambling speech, sometimes muttered, sometimes shouted, and Ace wasn't all that impressed. The crowd seemed to like it, though. "There is a race," screamed Hitler, "which for thousands of years has not possessed a state of its own, but has instead spread all over the world. They are not peasants or farmers. Instead, they have conquered the money markets, beginning in poverty, and now rich in vermin, vice, and pestilence. Grimly determined not to serve us, but to rule. I say these Jews must be swept away." Ace gave the Doctor an angry look. "Did you hear what he said?" "That's telling 'em," said a mild-looking man beside them. "Bloody Yids, they get all the money and all the jobs." Ace swung round angrily on him, but the Doctor grabbed her arm, shaking his head. Reluctantly, Ace subsided. Hitler rambled on, turning his attack to the post-war treaty that had taken German territories and was forcing her to pay crippling reparations. "Follow me," he screamed. "Follow me, and these evils shall be swept away, and Germany will be great once more. Germany awake, to the War Office!" The excited crowd roared, and the procession set off down the street. In front went the man with the swastika banner. Behind him marched Hitler and the tall old man. Behind them marched a tall fat man, and a much slighter one looking, thought Ace, curiously like Laurel and Hardy. Behind this leading group came a motley crowd of supporters, some uniformed, some not, some with rifles and bayonets, others brandishing revolvers. Despite the presence of all these weapons, there was a cheerful, holidayish feeling in the air, as though most of the crowd were just out for a lark. Ace grabbed the Doctor's arm. "What's happening? What's he doing?" "Seizing power, or trying to." "Is he going to make it?" "Come and see." The street was so narrow that it acted like a funnel, jamming the procession into a tightly packed mass. As they followed the crowd, the Doctor said, "We're in Munich, Ace, in 1923. The whole country's in an uproar, and Hitler and his gang are trying to stage a coup." "Who's that other one? The tall old man?" "General Ludendorff, a big hero from the First World War. He's just a figurehead, really. Doesn't know what's going on." They were near the end of the narrow street now, and Ace saw that it opened out into a big public square. Blocking the entrance to the square was a cordon of green uniformed police armed with rifles. "That square's called the Odeonplatz," said the Doctor. "They have to cross it to seize the War Ministry on the other side." "But the cops won't let them?" "Not if they can help it. Their problem is that they don't want to open fire in case they hurt old Ludendorff. He's still a public hero." The head of the procession came nearer and nearer to the cordon of police. The police raised their rifles. One of the men close to Hitler rushed forward, shouting, "Don't shoot! General Ludendorff is here!" A policeman shouted, "Halt! Halt and turn back!" Laughing and cheering, the procession surged forward, and the police opened fire. They didn't shoot into the crowd, though. Instead, they aimed their rifles downwards and fired at the granite paving stones. Chips of stone and ricocheting bullets struck the front ranks of the procession, and straight away the would-be revolutionaries turned and ran, Hitler among them. Ace saw him stumble and fall, and the crowd trample over him. "Up here!" yelled the doctor. He grabbed Ace's arm and they retreated up the steps of a big old house. From the shelter of the doorway, they watched the chaotic scene. The rattle of rifle fire was still coming from the direction of the police cordon, and the crowd was streaming down the narrow street in full retreat. The air was full of screams and shouts, and Ace saw people forcing their way into shops and houses, kicking in windows and climbing through, anything to get off the street. Most of the crowd had moved past by now, though here and there bodies had been left behind on the ground, some moaning and twitching, some lying still. They saw the fat man who'd been one of the leaders of the procession stagger away across the square, clutching at his stomach. "There goes poor old Goering," said the doctor. "One of those granite splinters got him. Ah, here's our man." A muddy figure was crawling along the pavement towards them, sobbing with pain. It was Adolf Hitler. He was bruised and battered, and obviously in such pain that he was scarcely able to move. "Is he wounded?" asked Ace. "Seriously, I hope." The doctor shook his head. "Just bashed up a bit. Come on." To Ace's amazement, the doctor ran down the steps and helped Hitler to rise, supporting him as he staggered along the street. For Adolf Hitler, the pain of defeat was even fiercer than the agony in his shoulder. The people he had tried to lead to glory had broken and fled. And what had happened to him? Not gloriously killed, not even honourably wounded, simply knocked into the ground and trampled into the mud by his own followers as they ran away. He became aware that someone was helping him to his feet. The someone had a companion, a girl. "What are you doing, Professor?" she called, her voice disapproving. "Helping someone who's hurt," said the man. "Come on, let's get him into the doorway." The girl came to his other side, and they half led, half carried him up the steps and laid him down in the doorway. Hitler stared wildly up at them. The man was small and dark with penetrating grey eyes, the girl young, round-faced, not unattractive. He had never seen them before in his life. The man said, "Are you wounded?" Hitler shook his head. "My shoulder, I fell." He winced as the stranger unbuttoned his muddy trench coat and felt inside. "Thought so. Left shoulder's dislocated. Not too serious, but agonizingly painful." "Good," said the girl in that same hostile voice. Hitler stared up at the man. "Are you a doctor?" "You might say I am the doctor," said the little man modestly. "Just let me turn you over." With swift, confident movements, he turned Hitler face down. He put one hand on the bony shoulder blade, grasped the left arm with the other, and pushed and pulled at the same time. There was a moment of intolerable agony, and Adolf Hitler screamed. Slowly the tide of pain receded. Hitler struggled to sit up. "I've reset your shoulder for you," said the little man briskly. "A bit rough and ready, but it'll have to do." He snatched the scarf from around Hitler's neck and used it to put his left arm in a rough sling. "It'll be better now, but you still need medical attention and rest." Hitler said hoarsely, "I have friends nearby, another doctor, waiting in case of trouble. There is a yellow Fiat parked in the Max Joseph Platz." "Then we'd better get you there," said the doctor. "Walk as steadily as you can. Try to look like an innocent bystander." They helped him down the steps and set off along the glass-strewn pavement, supporting him between them. As they walked along, Hitler muttered, "I don't know you. Are you party members? Supporters?" The girl said, "Not on your—" The man waved her to silence. "No," he said, "just casual passers-by. You might say we're observers." Deep inside Hitler's mind something alien stirred, writhing in impotent rage. She sensed the presence of the enemy, close, so close, and his mind was closed to her. It spurned her, but her time would come. Hitler came to a sudden halt, staring blindly in front of him. "What's the matter?" Hitler became aware of the grey eyes staring into his own. He shook his head to clear it and turned away. "Nothing. I get these dizzy spells. The strain. He moved on, looking despondently around him. His brief attempt at revolution was already over. The dead and wounded were being taken away, and people were coming cautiously out of their houses to see what was happening. It was finished, and he had failed. Was it worth going on? As they moved along the street, a dark figure scuttled behind them at a safe distance, dodging from tree to tree like a giant black spider. The doctor shook his head, oppressed by strange forebodings. He felt as if his enemies were gathering around him. Max Josefsplatz was only a few streets away, and the yellow Fiat was waiting, parked on the other side of the square. Hitler stopped at the corner, gazing intently at the doctor. "I shall always be grateful for your help. I should like to repay you, but I have nothing to offer." He laughed bitterly. "Half an hour ago I hoped to rule Germany. Now I am a hunted fugitive. I shall be lucky to escape arrest, perhaps even execution. I have failed totally. I shall commit suicide. It is the only honourable thing to do." He heard the girl mutter something that sounded like, "Good." Once again the little man silenced her. He put a hand on Hitler's shoulder, the good one, and looked deeply into his eyes. "Listen to me. You have failed today, but you will not always fail." Hitler stared at him. "What do you mean? How do you know that?" "One day you will rule Germany. Not for many years, but that day will come. When it does, we shall meet again. All I ask is that you remember me." There was something oddly compelling and utterly convincing in the little man's quiet voice, and Hitler knew he was somehow telling the truth. It wasn't over after all. One day he would rise to supreme power, leading Germany into a glorious future. His destiny was certain. "I shall always remember you, Doctor," said Adolf Hitler hoarsely. "You have given me new hope. If those hopes are fulfilled, you shall have any reward that is in my power." He turned and strode towards the waiting car. As he reached it, the passenger door opened for him. He paused for a moment and raised his right hand in salute. "Goodbye, Doctor." He got stiffly into the little car, the door closed, and the Fiat trundled away. Behind him, the doctor heard Ace whisper fiercely, "Goodbye, Adolf." A sudden instinct made him turn, and he saw Ace's hand emerge from her pocket and her arm go back. "No!" yelled the doctor and grabbed her arm. He didn't manage to stop her throw, but he spoiled her aim. The glass capsule of Nitro 9A landed several feet to the left of the departing car, blasting a huge crater in the road. The Fiat wobbled wildly and then shot off into the distance. Alarmed, the dark, scuttling figure ducked back out of sight. The doctor let go of the struggling Ace. "And just what do you think you're doing?" "You heard that racist filth he was spouting just now. We've seen the kind of England he'll make if he's not stopped. I thought we were here to change history, Professor." The doctor grabbed her arm and began marching her away. "Only as much as we absolutely have to. Changing history is a delicate operation, like brain surgery. You don't start by sawing the patient's head off." "I'd like to have blown his head off," muttered Ace. The dark figure moved closer, unobserved by the man and the girl who were arguing furiously. With rising joy he saw that he was right. It was the doctor. The appearance was changed, but he recognised the voice, the movements, the very soul of the Time Lord he had hated for so many long years. His old enemy was delivered into his hands. Far quicker than he had hoped, the doctor had taken the bait. What a pity he must die without knowing who had killed him. Carefully, the figure adjusted the energy weapon. "All right, suppose you had killed him," said the doctor impatiently. "What would have happened then?" "How do I know? Whatever it was, it would have been an improvement." "How can you be so sure?" "Well, it stands to reason." "Does it?" said the doctor furiously. "In history, the real history, Hitler's 1,000-year Reich lasted from 1933 to 1945. 12 years, and that was it. Finished." "So?" "The main reason was that Hitler was an incompetent madman. You blow him to bits, and maybe a competent madman takes charge. Someone who really can make the Reich last for 1,000 years. "All right, Doctor, you win," said Ace wearily. From somewhere nearby, a voice whispered, "No, Doctor, you lose." A dark figure stepped out from behind a tree further down the street, a long, slender cane in its hand. There was a fierce crackle of power. The Doctor dodged, not quite quickly enough, and the energy beam singed the top of his ear and the brim of his hat. The beam swept upwards, severing a heavy tree branch, which crashed down into the street, missing them by inches. Ace drew back her arm. "Down, Ace!" yelled the Doctor, but the Nitro 9A capsule was already on its way. The tree behind which the would-be assassin was hiding rose high in the air, and so presumably did the assassin. "Come on, Ace!" yelled the Doctor. "Let's get back to the TARDIS while some of Munich's still standing." They sprinted for the alleyway. Back inside the TARDIS, the Doctor sank wearily into a chair. "Thank you, Ace. Again." "It's all right to blow people up who are shooting at you, then?" "Every time. Especially when they tried to shoot me with energy weapons in 1923. All the same." The Doctor held out his hand. "What?" asked Ace innocently. "Hand it over." "But it's my last one." "Hand it over, I said." Reluctantly, Ace produced her last capsule of Nitro 9A. The Doctor took it and slipped it into his pocket. "I really can't risk any more of your explosive alterations to history. You could disrupt the whole time stream." He examined the brim of his hat. "Look at that. Ruined! And he hasn't done my ear much good either." Ace was already scrabbling in the storage locker. "You can easily find another hat." "What about my ear?" She tossed him the stone jar. "Try this. There's just about enough left. If things keep up like this, you'd better think about stocking up again." Cautiously, the Doctor applied the lotion. "Now my left ear will be younger than the rest of me." Ace nodded to the centre column. It was rising and falling, but very, very slowly. "Are we going somewhere or not?" "I think we're just hovering in the vortex." The Doctor took an electronic toolkit from a locker, removed a panel from the central control console and set to work. "What are you up to now?" "Just a little experiment with the telepathic circuit," said the Doctor mysteriously. Ace watched him working for a moment. "So what's the plan?" The Doctor patted the console. "Ask her." "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. It's the TARDIS's plan, not mine. All I'm doing is picking up my cues." "Is that what you were doing out there?" The Doctor nodded. "That, and trying to change things as little as possible in the process." "But you have changed things. You met Hitler and saved his bacon." "Not really. According to recorded history, Adolf really did escape from the Munich disaster with a badly dislocated shoulder. All I did was insert myself into his life stream as unobtrusively as possible. We haven't really altered anything yet. Apart from a couple of chunks of Munich, that is. They'll put that down to a bit of revolutionary bomb-chucking." "What's going to happen to him? Did he get arrested?" "Oh yes, they caught him eventually." "What happened?" "He got 5 years for treason, served 6 months as a VIP prisoner writing Mein Kampf, got pardoned and came out a hero. 10 more years of dirty politics, and he finally managed to seize power." "And you think he had help?" "I'm certain of it," said the Doctor thoughtfully. "From someone with an energy weapon, someone who knows me, and knew I was coming." He finished whatever he was doing, replaced the panel, and put away the toolkit. "What about the Timewyrm?" asked Ace. "What indeed?" The Doctor produced his time path indicator. It was glowing brightly. "According to this, she's not far away, and the TARDIS has landed again. Shall we go?" "Must we? I mean, if that was typical of Nazi politics..." "Oh, no, said the Doctor. "Those were the early innocent days. After that it got quite nasty." He was staring abstractedly into space. "What's the matter, Professor?" "That was the first time I'd ever met Adolf," said the Doctor thoughtfully. "But a while back, when he had a sort of minor fit on the way to the square, I felt I already knew him. It was as though someone familiar was looking at me through his eyes. Odd that, very..." He opened the TARDIS doors, letting in a blaze of light. Searchlight beams played across the night sky, and they heard the roar of an enormous crowd.